Um, Good morning. It's morning for me. It is just before 5 o'clock here in Texas, and it is the 12th of July. So last night, just before I went to work, I made a quick 8-minute post, just because I felt moved to do so because things were accelerating so wildly and continue to accelerate wildly here in Texas. Um, More reports from more places here scattered all over Texas that things are bad everywhere. Um, it's not in perfect lockstep with each other. Um, so one place might be burning a little hotter than another, but overall, it seems as if all of Texas that I can get information on is accelerating. We had a few days ago, I had mentioned in some social media that it had become public that we were getting DMAT, which is I guess a quasi-governmental federal healthcare crisis, natural disaster, disaster preparedness, um, mobile hospital was deploying here in this part of Texas. Last night there was another hospital that had an emergency, and they had to start transferring very sick people out. And I think 5 or 6 of those people ended up coming to us. And the DMAT team dispatched a team of people, physicians, nurses, medics, to us, and we cleared out a section of our ER and made that available to them, and we worked side by side with them. Great people, highly skilled professionals. Thank you guys for for being flexible and coming in at the drop of a dime. So they were super helpful. So yeah, we're working hand in hand with those folks, so yeah, taking it day by day. A lot of views of my post from last night, and lots of feedback. Most of it incredibly supportive. Thank you. Some of it was comical and distressing. And that's where we're going to start today. So we had one friend who posted my video, shared it, and some dude comes back and was like, well, yeah, what about this? The famous whataboutisms. And basically he shared a link to a video to some person who it seems pretty obvious they're not a healthcare professional. If they are, I'm not sure what they do. Holy cow. It's 101 degrees outside. So, but some of the things that they were talking about were very interesting. Some of them factually inaccurate, absolutely wrong. They talked about, well, if COVID's so dangerous, why isn't it killing all the homeless people that... because they don't wash, they don't clean, they don't use hand sanitizer, they're all packed on top of each other. Well, guess what, dipshit? They are dying. It's just nobody cares. Nobody reports it because they're homeless. They're invisible people. This happened in New York City. A lot of people died quietly alone in the streets, and they never even made it to the hospital. They just got picked up and they got taken somewhere. And many of them got buried in Potter's Field or someplace like that. And you just don't have to trouble your snowflake little heart with their loss, their pain, and their suffering. But you have the unmitigated gall. Hello? 336. What is your room number? I don't even know who you are. Who am I talking to? Yep, excellent. Thank you. That's fine. Yeah, I'll be right. I'll be right downstairs. Thank you. You are at the courtyard, correct? Excellent. I'll be right downstairs. Thank you so much. You can just leave stuff there. I'll be down soon. Thank you. Bye. I had Instacart bring me groceries. It's little details like that lend credibility to my crisis acting videos. So, but yeah, you have the unmitigated gall to act like this shit isn't happening just because you don't know about it. In the words of wingnut, deniers, do your research, Google, before you start running your mouth. In addition, person took incredible exception to things like the words like social distancing and saying, oh, it's not social, it's this whole program to make people feel isolated and die in poverty. And all of the guidelines being forwarded by public health officials, let me be super clear, is about mitigation of risk and trying to reduce transmission of virus to improve the chances that we limit transmission, slow transmission, and provide as much protection as we can. Sometimes these things are easy to do and they're super effective, and others are very hard. But the more of them we can do, and the more things we can do to limit spread, limit exposure, the better off we are. When we fail to do so, when everybody's like, oh, this is just a big conspiracy bunch of bullshit, guess what? Florida has 15,000 cases a day today. A lot of those people will do well. Yeah, that's another thing you'll say, oh, a lot of this is 99%. Guess what? When you take 1% of 100 million people who have catastrophic, life-changing, life-altering problems, that's a hell of a lot of people, and that's a hell of a lot of suffering. And we're talking about, oh, people can't make money, that's a problem. How much do you think an ICU visit for like 3 weeks on a vent costs? What about all of these families that are going to get bills for $400,000, $500,000, $1 million for their family member who got sick because your jackass couldn't bother to respect somebody enough to try to mitigate the transmission of a virus? I want to be polite about many of these things, but some of these things we just shouldn't be polite about. There is no balance. There is no medium point. There is no, I don't know which to believe. Both sides have valid. No, there is no valid argument. We're not asking you to chop off a hand in tribute. We're asking you to simply try to mitigate the spread of disease with a little bit of consideration and a tiny hint of discomfort. We can not only slow the progression, we can beat it. We look at other countries, we're like, well, there's no way this could be avoided. Except we look at all these other countries who have avoided it. Countries like New Zealand, who have crushed their cases down to nearly zero. And then there's other people who are like, we need herd immunity. Oh, look at this country. Look, they're just going to go for herd immunity. And now people are dying like crazy. We look at Brazil, people dying like crazy. We look at some of these other countries. In Brazil, a lot of homeless people dying there too. India, people starting to die at astronomical rates. Once again, packed in close. This is not rocket science, people. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it, but you're just wrong. Facts and reality don't give a shit what you think. Public health is not about politics. It's not about your personal belief system and your need to be coddled. So there. That's that on that. Also, one of my friends online posted the question. You're on the ground sooner than you were in New York City, relatively speaking. That said, are you seeing a difference in preparedness? Have the last 4 months been used effectively? Have the last 4 months been used effectively? Hell no. We have a couple of mildly effective treatments that are helpful. One of them, an antiviral medication that you really can't get because it's in such high demand. There's been no federal response to try to generate some of these medications and some of these things in a way that can provide meaningful treatment to the number of people who are now infected because we've let them get infected so fast. So not only have we not used this time effectively to produce PPE for a mass scale. Not only have we not produced medications for a mass scale, we've encouraged the explosive growth of this virus to the point that we really needed to take advantage of that time. So, am I on the ground sooner? Yes, we are on the ground sooner. I hit New York right at about the peak, right at the start of April. It was right there at the end of March, beginning of April, when New York was at its worst. So it was just kind of hit the ground running there. With that said, here, when we hit the door, literally when my team and I walked into our unit, we literally started working pretty much right away. There was no, hey, there's the med room, there's the stock room, here's the computers, here's the charting system, here's how our IV pumps work. It was, God bless you, please get to work. And that's okay, because that's what they needed. But we're still not at the peak here. So we have been training on the fly for the past week. We're now relatively functional. There's still things we don't know because we never got really a formal look around. I mean, there's still stuff I'm trying to find, which makes us a little bit less effective, but we're more effective every day. So is there more preparedness? In some ways, yes. Yes. This hospital system had the foresight to get us in the door. The state and some of the regional agencies and disaster folks had the foresight to get us in the door a little bit sooner, which is good, because they were melting. They were melting hard. Right now, they need respiratory therapists really bad. I am hopeful that they can deploy a bunch of respiratory therapists because last night they only had a couple of respiratory therapists for the whole hospital, and I think there were 40 vents. Just vents, not BiPAPs. We're preferring to use BiPAPs and high flow O2, and we're trying to avoid vents, but still, I think 40 some vents in this one mid-sized hospital. That's a lot of vents. And these folks are sick. If you are sick enough to get that vent, if you are critically ill enough to demand that precious piece of equipment that we don't have enough of, you need that respiratory therapist to be able to make those subtle adjustments. Because nurses, we're pretty good at that stuff, but we have to be good at a lot of things. So that respiratory therapist who specializes in that is a mission critical person, and we need more of them. So yeah, some things have helped. Other things you just really can't prepare for. It goes back to that old thing about, you have a plan. And, you're going into a boxing match and you have a plan, you know what you're going to do. And then you get punched in the face. And that plan is gone because at this point it's just a fight. And that's what this is for us. We have been punched in the face. These folks had a plan. Most healthcare services have a plan. Most hospital systems, most states, they have a plan. And then you get punched in the face, and then it's an emergency, and then you figure it out. So we are in the figuring it out phase. I am impressed by the professionalism and the adaptability of the local staff here and the administrators. I've seen administrators come in, the nursing supervisors, the nursing administration, some of the hospital administrators. They are front and center, and they're listening to their staff, they're listening to us, and they're trying to find adaptive ways to take care of business, and that's awesome. That's what you need to do in these situations. So there's that. I got my groceries. Thank you, Instacart. I'm not sponsored by them, but hey, they can throw me. They threw me a free delivery, so I guess we'll call that sponsorship, right? I got some stuff down here at the front desk, so I'm going to go grab that, and we'll go from there. There's some other stuff that I want to touch on pretty soon. I don't want to put out information about where I'm at, just because I think that I have a professional responsibility to be here to solve problems, not to kind of put out a lot of personal information, aside from the fact that I want to put out generalized information. But the local community had a huge tragedy yesterday. At some point, I might touch upon that just to honor the folks who were touched and taken in that incident. Lots going on. I still want to do a PPE video. I want to, I get a lot of questions on PPE and everything, from what kinds of face masks and what kind of respirators and filter levels, and I could probably do an hour just on respiratory PPE. So we're going to try to do one of those, and that's about it for now. This is 15 minutes. I don't want to go past 15 minutes. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. You guys take care. Be good to each other. Spread the word. Encourage people to try to do right by each other. Because the whole country is catching fire right now, and the only way that we're going to fix this is if we look after each other, because it's we're not getting a lot of leadership from the top. So okay, take care, guys. Be well. Love y'all, and see you soon.